Poland Daily Travel. I'm your host, Will Richardson. On this series of episodes, we're going for a walk in the park, and quite a long walk at that. As you've seen already, and if you know Warsaw at all, it has some fantastic green spaces. But this is one of my favorite walks, right through the center of town and off the beaten track. I think it's safe to say there's very few cities that you could do such a long walk out of sight and away from traffic. We start in Marienstadt. That's the first neighborhood rebuilt after World War II. It took about 2 years. From there, near the old town, we head progressively in a southerly direction. This is a walk you're going to want to do to get to know the city, no matter what time of year you come and visit Warsaw. You'll see the University Roof Garden. It's one of the largest in Europe. You'll see a bit of Powiśla, the district between the river and the center of the city. You'll walk through woods and parks. You'll see Ujazdowskie Park, one of the absolutely loveliest spots in Warsaw. And finally, Ujazdowskie Castle. And we'll end up at Pole Mokotowskie, the site of the first airport in Warsaw. That's Mokotowska Field. And for most of the journey, we'll be walking eastward along the ridge, and just below it, the ridge separates the center of town, Śródmieście, from Powiśla, or the riverside. So thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure doing this series of episodes for you. Poland Daily Travel. Sometimes travel is in your own backyard.
The bridge I'm standing on now was built by William Lindley, who also built the Warsaw Waterworks, if I'm correct. I believe he was a Scottish man. So this particular bridge, which was built in 1892 or 3, was the second reinforced concrete bridge of this type in the world, after one in Vegan, Switzerland. That's not vegan like people who don't eat meat. Vegan, if I'm saying it right, or vegan perhaps. At any rate, so this was a big deal. The whole park was landscaped in the so-called English style. So it's rather open, rather wild. There's flower beds, but it's not regimented like you would find in a typical French garden. I think the other thing that I should say is that during the movement of the park, or the reason the park was moved in the late 1700s, that's a century before, was because King August Poniatowski wanted to make a military parade field. And that's what they did here. They had a big open field, and they did military parades similar to the Champ de Mars in Paris, which is used for military parades traditionally, as of course is near where Les Invalides, where Napoleon's tomb is. Now, the thing was no longer used. The park was no longer used as a military parade ground under the Russians, of course, because the Polish weren't allowed to have a military, at least of their own. They could serve in the Russian or the various other countries that occupied them. They could serve in their military. So at any rate, this was quite the thing at the turn of the 20th century. This was one of the nicest, most well-planned parks, apparently, in all of Europe. And it's still nice today. It's still extremely popular. As you can see, it's relatively full of people compared to the other places we've been, although it is a bit later in the day now. It's about midday, probably 12:30, coming up. And, good place if you're living nearby or working nearby to come and eat your sandwich, particularly during lockdown and quarantine time. Okay, thanks for watching Poland Daily Travel. We're here in Park Ujazdowskie. Okay, here it is, Zamek Ujazdowskie, Ujazdowskie Castle, one of the most important buildings in the whole country. One of the reasons being that it existed before the royal palace in the old town, which is of course an iconic building in Poland. What you see behind me has been rebuilt. It was reconstructed on plans that pre-existed after the Second World War, because during the Warsaw Uprising, of course, it was pretty brutally destroyed. Now, the other thing about this, when this was built and destroyed many times, that wasn't the first time, but it was chosen by the Dukes of Mazovia to be their headquarters before, as I said, it was moved to the royal castle in the 13th century. Of course, the Dukes of Mazovia built churches and castles all over the Mazovia region. Some of those we have seen in our previous many, many adventures. But this building has a specific and special specific duty and a special place in the hearts of people of Warsaw, Warszawians. And the reason is that it houses arts. It is an arts center. And it's been that for many centuries. Actually, it's been a center of culture. And the reason is that today you have not only many Wystavas, exhibitions, and many artists in residence and exchange programs. I once met some artists who were living right up here in the top, artists from various different countries who were studying in Poland and headquartered there. And what a great place to be headquartered. There's also a nice restaurant inside. And beyond that, it was, I suppose the biggest artistic premiere was centuries ago when Jan Kochanowski, one of his plays was performed here. So, rich in history and in a great location because it sits on this ridge. Down here we have the Belvedere Palace, not that far away, on the other side of Łazienki Park. And in this way we have Ujazdowski Park, and you keep walking, as we've shown you in the previous episodes, and you get to Marienstadt and the old town of Warsaw. So it's really a thrilling walk. This is one of the best walks. Forget the main road. This walk through the parks is one of the best walks you'll ever do, not just in Poland, but in Europe itself. And I just saw this when we came up, and I thought it was very interesting considering that this was a big headquarters for the Warsaw Uprising. This is Śródmieście. A lot of the fighting took place in this area. The Germans were very close, and a lot of buildings on Ujazdowskie and down on Piękna and Lwowska streets. So they were very close to the Germans. And it was a bastion, absolutely a bastion. But somebody's written something nice which seems to hearken to those times. And if I may, I'll just read it quickly for you. All of these benches have inscriptions. Let me read this. On the front it says, "Turn soft and lovely anytime you have a chance." And then it's written here, "It is embarrassing to be caught and killed for stupid reasons. Someone else's body is a place for your mind to go. Silly holes in people are for breeding or are from shooting. If you're considered useless, no one will feed you anymore. Use what is dominant in a culture to change it quickly. It is in your self-interest to find a way to be very tender." Okay, we'll see you